Hello. This is Kim with Abundant Life Tarot, and I wanted to hop on here and talk a little bit about independent deck creators and the delicate situation of customer service. And I am going to really try to broach this topic being as objective as possible, but also not being overly critical of like either side of the coin, because there's always a sense that you are taking a side, when in fact, when you really think about it, you can empathize with both parties who are involved when it comes to the delicate issue of when projects go well beyond their turnaround time that was promised when the deck was originally placed for pre-order or placed on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any other platform to sell, and where the customer, or whether you want to call them a customer, a backer, a supporter, an investor, whatever you want to call them, they are basically folks who put their money up in good faith that a product is going to be created, that they will be able to reap the benefits of a finished product, and that product will come sooner than later. However, we know that with any creative birthing process, there is going to be labor pains. There's going to be delays. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be trials and tribulations along the journey that are unforeseen most times. And we have to bring a level of patience, whether we are the deck creator ourselves or whether we're the customer. And so that's the thing about being an indie deck creator. And that's the thing about being a person who supports or backs these projects. With that being said, though, there is a level of customer service that still should be doled out, that still should be expected, and that still should happen, even in these types of situations. One of the things that concerns me about within the tarot community, and specifically within the community that of the ones who buy and purchase independent decks or back independent decks, is this notion that you are simply investing and you run the risk of the creative project not coming to fruition, and you're certainly not to expect that you will, oh, my husband is home, that you will receive your deck sooner than later. And the thing is, you will understandably empathize with the folks who are like, hey, I know it's an investment, but if you're getting the money up front, you're getting the bulk of the money up front for the creation, and we're relying on you to accurately estimate how much it's going to cost to make this project come to life. If you are not able to do that, then you really shouldn't be putting a project forward. Oh, hold on. Guys, I'm back. My husband came in. He just got off work, and I wanted to ask him to kill a black widow spider that had come through, I guess, the crack of our door. And I'm like, I could have killed it myself, but I get a little weird about killing poisonous spiders. What can I say? So I'm back. What I was trying to say, though, is you can empathize with someone who says, hey, I do put up my money up front. I expect a product at the end of the day. And I expect some preferential treatment at the end of the day. I expect my package to come sooner than, say, the folks who later purchase the decks after the initial investment opportunity. And, you can say, okay, I see why a person who is putting their money up front first, why they would feel that way. But there are many different variables as to why that cannot always happen. I would hope that if, for example, a tarot deck creator has an early bird special, a perk of, supporting early on with low prices, that also is a part of being in that early bird scenario, that you get your deck first. Is that going to happen ideally? I don't know. Because if you're trying to if you're mailing the decks out yourself, yeah, you may have some control over which decks go out based on who ordered first. But let's say you have someone helping you, or let's say you're using a distribution company and they're just looking at the logistics of getting the decks out strategically. There's so many different variables that come with that I can understand the deck creator's position in that regard. But I also understand the customer who is like, look, I just expect the product to come preferably before many others have received it. I don't think that's too big of an ask, but maybe there are, again, logistics that we're not privy to. But this is where it really comes full circle. Because no matter what it is, no matter what it could be, no matter what customer service issue arises, the point is, customer service is what's most important here. Communication is customer service. Conveying, hey, I have no control over when the decks are going to go out and in what order. Saying that helps set an expectation for the consumer. Or in those instances where you need to communicate delays, even if you have no updates, even just providing the status of, hey, there is no update. I will come back in 2 weeks' time and give you an update. And then set a calendar reminder and do that and follow through on that. That is important to me. I know it's important to many consumers with any kind of purchase, with any kind of service. The communication just needs to be there. Set the appropriate expectation as best as you can. And when unforeseen delays happen, just try to be as transparent as you can. If you're not, in a position right now to finish it, just say, hey, I have been working on other things at the moment. It is, this is still a project of mine that is set on, for me to complete. I have every intention of doing that. Staying in communication is critical. And to that end, deck creators, if you are using Kickstarter, utilize the update section. Update your consumers, update your backers. If you're not using Kickstarter, which is unfortunate because Kickstarter does have the ability to send out mass emails with the update. So the creator puts in their update, and then that generates an email out to their backers. That's what you can do, even if you don't really have a lot of information, even if it's something that's really out of your control. If you are not hooked up to Kickstarter, make sure you use your main method of information of maybe sending a quick post, a Facebook post. You don't have to do a video. You don't have to do something elaborate. A post is fine. Some way of letting your backers or your supporters or your investors know that the project is still there. It's still on the forefront of your mind, and customer service is at the forefront, and inviting them to ask any questions or express any excitement about the project, as opposed to expressing frustration at why it's not here yet. I've been in the customer service game for like 20 plus years, probably even further, honestly. And not necessarily in tarot reading and tarot deck selling, certainly. But there's tenets that can apply to any area, including selling tarot decks. And listen, people are spending a lot of money when they are purchasing an independently produced deck. And they expect, with that higher premium of payment, they expect a product that comes timely and maybe with some extra perks and extra care and love and attention. And that makes them feel good about their purchase. It makes them want to continue to do that in the future. But every time there's moments where there's lapses in communication, poor products, in terms of the quality of the production of the deck, or, poor shipping issues, delays that it just seems like, the project is just not at the forefront of the creator's mind. All of that starts to chip away collectively at the folks who want to support the artists, want to support the independent deck creators. It makes them not want to be a backer or a supporter or an investor or a customer or whatever you want. Because honestly, I'll be frank with you. My best purchases in terms of independent decks happen when I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait for the backing, the Kickstarter or whatever, the pre-order situation to go through. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to risk. And I'm going to wait until I can just jump in and order. Still a first edition, but now I've cut out all the extra wait. I've cut out all the extra worry and all the extra fuss and the delays and the frustrations of seeing the deck creator working on something else when you feel like they should be working on the deck. I'm too busy to notice, really honestly, decks that have gone late. And I've had quite a few decks that I've backed or supported run late because I'm busy with life. I'm a tarot reader. I have a business that I'm working, that I work on. And then I have a family and I have a full-time job outside of the house. So I'm a busy lady. I don't really have a chance to even think about decks that are overdue. But now that I'm not actively purchasing decks this year because it's 2020 and I'm in a depth year, and I have not been really the decks that I've pre-ordered or backed prior to this depth year, I've been waiting for them and observing the behaviors and observing people getting frustrated. And then I started thinking, my Band-Aid keeps coming off. I started thinking about, wow, okay, this is a situation now. I'm starting to see it more and more in tarot groups where people who back decks are starting to feel a little slighted. And deck creators, I'm empathizing with them because there's some things that are completely out of their control. But if you keep your people's, as deck creators, if you keep your customers informed, and people, if you just, bring a little patience, it could be something that could be worked out. It could be something that could end up being a very beautiful experience. Even the delays, because it kind of builds up that anticipation. But I have a deck that I pre-ordered. Now it's going on a little over 2.5 years, and it was something that I chose to purchase. I chose to put my money out there. But now, knowing what I know, I would probably now are on the side of not supporting any decks that are not complete, like the artwork is not complete, and that I am now going to only back when it is ready to go into full-on print and production. And it's unfortunate, but it's just a way of safeguarding my investment, my time, because rarely is the case, too, I should say, that a deck that you back doesn't come into fruition, at least from what I've seen. But I am starting to see times of decks coming that, the shipping is immensely late, or the packaging wasn't that great, so the decks come damaged, or it was a project that was going on. I'm thinking about one particular project that was ongoing for a long time, and they did it differently. The pre-order wasn't until like right before it was going to print, so that was fine. But it became a rush to get it done, and then there was errors in the guidebook. And so it was just like, oh, this luscious deck is a little marred by the fact that there's the guidebook has got errors. And so it's just like, okay, how can we work around that? Well, just the success stories with Kickstarters that I can think of is they did have the artwork pretty much done, if not done, and it's now ready to go to print. That's number one. Number two, the creator was very tight on their understanding, because they had already completed the artwork, already did a test print really of the deck, and already kind of know what they're working with in terms of how they want to package it. It's a little easier at that point probably to start to do the nuts and bolts of forecasting how much that's really going to cost in order to price it, in order to make sure that you are funding it when you're not at a loss as a creator. So for projects, I think the success is getting it as complete as possible before you put it out, so you really are able to truly get a good estimate of how much things are going to cost to get it done. And then that's it. You got to get it done. You got to get the project done in order to make it happen, right? And so you got to stick to it. Yeah, you might have other things going on, but now that you've taken money, one would think after you've taken money, there's a sense of urgency to get it done. And it's painful for consumers and backers to see their deck creators out creating courses, doing a bunch of different Patreon events, doing all this different stuff, when it's crickets over on where the deck is at. What's going on with the deck? I know as a tarot reader and as someone who likes to create different things surrounding tarot, I know being in that creative process that sometimes it will be crickets. There's not anything going on because I'm working on something else. Something else is percolating with that project. I don't know. But when that exchange of money happens, when you receive that money, now it becomes a customer service issue. And so I now empathize, again, with the consumer in that instance. It's like, what's going on here? And all of that could be alleviated. Honestly, all of that frustration could be alleviated if the deck creator just simply sent out a quick little memo on their Facebook or in their Kickstarter updates or in their Etsy updates or wherever you want to update folks at. I don't know how you do it, but you do it. The service will be there. And yeah, there will be delays. There are delays. And I've had decks that are delayed, but I've had those creators. What I'm thinking of success stories, they kept in constant communication. Update. And sometimes there's this idea of, well, there is no update right now. I said the last update a month ago. There is no update. There's no change. The printer hasn't moved yet. That's still an update. It's just saying, hey, this is par for the course. We're waiting still. I'm waiting. I've been sending weekly emails to the printer, trying to see what's going on to push it through, to make sure that when they're up and running again, that the printer is, ready, knowing that my project is the one to get done first, because I'm the one that keeps asking about it week to week to week. I have a vested interest in getting it done. Folks, here's the emails where I've been sending it to the printer to get my project number one. We have the coronavirus going on right now around the world. That is definitely inherently causing some delays and concerns with such. So it's understandable. That is really out of everyone's control. However, when the printer is ready to start going again, we want our project at the forefront. And so again, it's just like, I don't think that's asking too much. I don't. But with that being said, you have to have that patience. If that is going on, if your deck creator has communicated that to you, then you've been notified of what's going on. And I understand that creative projects can take years to make. But again, when you've now received that money, there's now a dynamic of, am I a patron of waiting for you to just create it 5 years later, 2 years later, 1 year later? Or am I someone who's really trying to pay for early access to a product? And that's where it gets a little murky with Kickstarters and pre-orders of decks. Just my 2 cents, guys. I can say all of this because, like I said, I'm going through a depth year, and it's interesting to me that I wasn't really thinking so much about these things before until now. So now that I get a chance to think about it and think about my collecting and think about decks that I want in the future and how I plan on procuring them, I definitely think about how are the deck creators, what is their past experience with this process? Do they have any prior experience? Is the deck complete? Is this a safe investment? And really, really being more critical. So probably after I emerge from my 2020 depth year, and maybe, I don't know if I'm going to do one in 2021 or not. I may do a low buy in 2021, and then maybe in 2022 kind of see where I'm at. But I know when I do start resuming purchasing decks, I am not going to be so inclined to jump in at the early investment level. And I'll probably fare just fine because we are seeing patterns here. And it's just, this is also a video and a call to the deck creators just to be mindful of that. Because it could definitely undermine the trust that you're trying to build with the folks who supported your project early on. And that's not what you want, because you may be doing future projects, or you may have other opportunities in the future where you know, this can make or break. Even if they weren't early backers, they could see how things transpired with other people, and that seed has been planted. So it's just a word of caution here. And so that's just what I wanted to hop on here and talk about, because earlier I recorded a video about, you know, collecting mass market versus indie. And then I wanted to expound a little bit more on the indie piece, because there is a little bit extra with the indie. You are investing a lot more money than you would just with the mass market produced deck purchase. And so it begs the question, it does beg the question, like, should you even consider backing a deck at the early investment stage? Many people enjoy doing that. They enjoy helping to bring a deck creation to life. And I encourage you, if that's what you love to do, to continue to do it. But for me, it's not just that. There's many other factors into why I'm adding a deck to my collection and why I want to add a first edition to my collection. And I am a businesswoman. So if I'm a businesswoman, I expect, when I'm doing business with others, I expect that kind of level of business in return. Do I have patience for folks who are not quite at that level? Of course I do. But do I still expect you to be professional on both sides, whether you're the consumer or the creator? Yes. Period. So that's it. That's just my 2 cents, folks. Just wanting to discuss that with you and see what your thoughts are. I know this might be a little controversial, but it really doesn't need to be. It's just a conversation, really, because honestly, I can just see how it can be an issue for both. You know, like it could just be an issue for both sides, and we can have resolutions with this. There are things that can immediately remedy the next purchase going forward, right? So that's it. So thank you all so much for joining me. So much love and many blessings, and I will chat with you all in the next video. Bye.